Welcome to Monday's edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. Thank you so much for being with us, folks. We'll be here for the next hour to talk Giants football and any other NFL issues you'd like to discuss. I'm Paul Dottino. He's Matt Zytek, and we're so glad you could be with us. It's 201-939-4513. If you'd like to give us a call, 201-939-4513. And as always, if you don't catch us live, you can always go to the archive, and our entire podcast network is on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and at giants.com/podcasts. All right, let's just dispense with all the pleasantries and go right to the news of the day, Matt.
Let's do it.
Brian Dable told us that Malik Nabers did not get his foot stepped on. Okay, he made that very clear. I know there have been various reports about all kinds of things, like he got his foot caught in a food processor. He got his foot caught in a George Foreman grill. I understand all that stuff, okay? I get all of it. But we're here to tell you the facts as we know them. And I think, to be frank with you, the way I interpreted Coach Dable's announcement earlier this morning is that there does not seem to be too much to worry about. But I will let Matt explain. You were there as well. Why don't you tell the folks what Coach had to say?
Yeah, so to a surprise to no one, that was the first thing Coach was asked this morning.
What a shock.
The first several questions. But, I mean, Coach doesn't, as we know, does not love to shed too much light when it comes to injuries. But I got the sense, it seemed like everyone kind of get the sense, that they don't think this is a serious injury. He said that Malik Nabers is sore. I mean, that would be expected after injuring your ankle or whatever it was, your foot the day before. He said he was sore, still going through some evaluations, but the sense that they got is that it is nothing serious. They're going to take it day by day. He didn't practice today, and so there's no reason to rush him back. I mean, obviously he is a rookie. You would like to see him, in an ideal world, you would love to see him get at least some game reps with Daniel Jones in an actual game, not just a practice setting. But it's too early to tell about, his status for Saturday. But look, you never know. Coach, he wouldn't definitively say anything, because why would he? There's no reason to. But he said that they don't think, it does not look like it is any sort of fracture or on the more serious end of the spectrum of what this injury could have been.
Mm-hmm.
So given the fact that he did, get a little banged up yesterday, it seems like this was, pretty positive news on that front.
Now, again, because he went for evaluations today, that's the reason we didn't see him on the practice field. I don't want people to think that he wasn't there because something else had popped up or that it was something serious. No, he was getting more evaluations.
Yes.
That's all. They're just trying to be very careful, as they should. The guy's the number one draft pick, okay? They got to be prudent here. Coach did say, however, and let's make this very clear, and he was absolutely emphatic about this. When he's cleared to go and he's ready, he will work. They're not holding him out once he gets the okay.
No.
So, I mean, it's pretty simple. They're not going to put kid gloves on him and say, oh, just because, he is a valued member of this offense, that they're going to hold him back and hold him out. Coach said he's a rookie. He still needs reps. So once he's cleared, he'll be back out there again. Now, they may ramp him up or they may cut down his workload a little bit, but I have absolutely no hesitation in believing that once the medics say he's fine, he's out there. They're not holding him back.
No. Yeah, Coach made that very clear. He was pretty much asked straight up about that. And that's
like 3 times.
Yeah, it's exactly what he said. When the medical staff give Malik Nabers the green light, they're throwing him back out there, as they should. Every rep for a rookie is so valuable during training camp because they've never performed at this level, obviously, in the NFL. LSU, SEC football, very high level. It's the best conference there is in college football, but it's not the same as playing in the NFL. So you want the rookies to get as many reps, whether it's practice or game, joint practice or just your team going. Like, you want him out there as much as possible while still, being safe. And so Dable said, as soon as he gets the green light, he will be back out there, which is good to hear.
Okay, what else did he tell us today? Well, he reaffirmed that Jones is going to play against Houston as long as the week goes okay, and there's nothing that would red flag him from taking the field against the Texans. He also said that Hyatt, Slayton, and Wan'Dale Robinson, among his other starters, will see a lot of reps. I mean, everything seems to be going exactly as the coach wanted it to. He had planned, he mentioned the other day, that he thought that he would get a lot of his starters some reps in this game anyway. So this is like not a surprise. Nothing's been derailed, I guess is really what I'm trying to say, by anything that's happened so far.
Correct. I mean, nothing of the overall plan.
Right.
You know, there are some guys that, last week Coach may have thought these guys are going to play against the Texans that given, we'll see what happens in practice.
Drew Lock is the one minor example. Right,
Drew Lock is one example.
Like he'll play. It's kind of unlikely.
Coach has not ruled him out though. And
right.
Drew Lock also spoke to the media after practice, and he reaffirmed that. He said, "I have not been ruled out. There's still a chance, but we're gonna have to see how the week goes and see how his recovery goes from the injury." He didn't necessarily say it was the hip. He just said it was the hip general area.
He said there's a 4-inch gap between his rib protector and his pads down on his thigh. He says there's a 4-inch gap there, and that's where he landed and got hurt. That 4-inch gap, which is right there, like kind of right near the hip bone. He said it's sore. He'd never been injured there before. He's already started to throw the last couple of days.
Yep.
And he said they'll keep going day by day and throwing. And if he feels better, he's saying there's a chance he could play against Houston. And Dable said the same thing. Neither guy would say 100% he's out for the game. And I understand why. Locke needs the reps. He said his execution was not good the other night. He didn't see the safety on the badly thrown interception in the first quarter against Detroit. So he's anxious to get out there and put some better stuff on tape.
For sure. I mean, at the same time, as we know, they're not going to let him go out there unless
if he can't go.
Right. And he said today he was asked, is this a pain tolerance issue or a risk of injuring it even further issue? And Drew said a little bit of both right now.
Right.
So, we'll see if the next 4 days can, clear either of those things up a little bit and make it so it, maybe it's just a pain tolerance thing and there is no, risk of injuring it further. We don't know. We'll have to see how the week goes. But yeah, overall, Dable's plan, or the supposed plan for Saturday, seems to be on track. The only guys that, we might see a couple of guys from both sides of the ball that are just a little banged up. There's no guarantee that those guys will play. John Michael Schmitz and Evan Neal, who were both, for the second straight day, returned to practice, only doing individual drills. Mm-hmm. Dable said he doesn't know if, those two guys will suit up on Saturday.
You got to ramp them up.
Yeah, you got to ramp them up. Drew Phillips did not practice today. Coach said they're backing him off a little bit. He's a little bit of a sore ankle. Depending on how the week goes, we'll see if he gets into the game. Right. But it's situations like that. It's, a couple of individual players from both sides of the ball that we'll just have to see how their rehab goes over the next few days before we get a sense of whether or not they're going to suit up on Saturday.
I tell people all the time when they ask me about training camp injuries or preseason injuries, I tell them all the time, listen, the details and the minutia aren't that important. I said, here's the question you really want to answer. And it's quite frankly the question that I usually ask people off to the side. Simple. If there's a regular season game this weekend, do you think the guy's going to play? That's really the litmus test, okay?
Yep.
Because somebody sitting out a preseason game or preseason practices, that doesn't really tell you the degree of injury.
No.
It really doesn't.
No.
Okay, and I suspect outside of maybe Locke and certainly Neal and Schmitz, because they're coming back slowly from ailments, I don't get the sense that anybody else may be at risk if they were to play a regular season game this week. That's kind of the sense I get. I won't say that definitively, but that's kind of the sense I get.
Well,
I mean, Flott's got the quad. Now,
Deontay Johnson.
Deontay Johnson was prepared to go back in the game the other night. Now, I know
Yeah.
they've held him out since, but he was back on the bench, and he was like, Coach,
Yeah,
I'm ready.
You got to wonder how much of that was just adrenaline. And,
Could've
he knows the situation he's
And
in.
he wants a roster
fighting
spot.
for a roster spot.
Badly does he want a roster
So,
spot.
yeah, him wanting to go back in the game on Thursday. That
Who
doesn't
knows?
surprise
Who
me.
knows? All right. But certainly, for the most part, I get the impression that we're not talking anything really serious here for any of these guys.
Yeah, that's the sense I get too. And, we follow everything that happens across the league. And, there have been so many teams stricken by the injury bug, like serious injuries. So you never want to see anyone go down. You never want to see anyone miss any practice. But, just knock on wood.
I told you, I got the giant can of insecticide out in the spring, and I sprayed the entire Meadowlands area. I did not spray Florham Park, but I did spray the Meadowlands area. So it's going to be okay.
Well, then in about 10 days, you're going to have to go to Florham Park and spray it for that one joint
Exactly,
practice.
right? That's a good point. 201-939-4513 is our phone number. If you'd like to give us a call, we'll be here again for up until 2 o'clock Eastern time. We do have one caller on, so why don't we hit him up first? We'll get to our promos in just a second. Marcus is from Oregon. You are first on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Hey, Paul. Hey, Matt. Usually from Portland, but I'm calling you guys from the beautiful beach of Manasquan today.
Okay.
Nice.
I just wanted to talk about the offense. Fantastic job on Thursday, but now we're kind of in a pickle because the running backs looked great. So we can't keep four. What's going to be the big deal? Like, who are we going to keep? Who are we gonna keep,
Champagne
guys?
problems, my man.
Yeah, I was going to say, to start, this is a good problem to have, especially considering, a week ago from right now, a lot of people were questioning if the Giants even had like a real number 2 running back on the team. And now we're talking about which of these 3 guys, which 2 of them might make the team. So first off, that is a good issue to have.
You know what I liked about the other night? You guys finally saw what we've been seeing in Tracy ever since camp opened. This kid can play. I'm convinced he's the number 2 back on the depth chart right behind Singletary.
Really?
I'm convinced of that. It's his number 2 spot to lose. And Gray showed the other night, in fact, he's been doing it now for about a week or so, why he was picked in the draft last year. He has certainly picked up his level, and I think he understood he needed to because he got off to a very slow start. And Dante Miller was creating some sparks. And, in fact, he had a good night against the Lions, too.
When it comes to Gray, I think, last year, and I'm pretty sure he's spoken about this, the Giants threw him in as, the returner last year. And that's not a role that he had, like, as much experience in, obviously, as running back. And when you're trying to get the hang of just playing in the NFL as a rookie, and then on top of that, you're basically playing a position that you don't feel like 100% comfortable or as comfortable as you do playing running back, it weighs on your mind. And, when Eric Gray was speaking, when Eric Gray spoke in the locker room after the game, he said that he was kind of just overthinking things a little bit last year. And this year, he just wanted to show people who he is, who he knows that he is, and he knows how he can play. And obviously, it's only been one preseason game and some practices too, but he's definitely shown, the burst that had everyone excited about him going into last year.
He was miscast as a rookie. It's that simple. And he knows it. And Joe Shane came out and told everybody that after the season. He kind of force-fed him into the return game on the coaches and said, that was on me. It was a mistake.
Yeah, because not every running back is a returner, so it wasn't fair to evaluate him that way. I mean, he got a few shots last season, when Barkley went down, but that was behind the god-awful offensive line.
Well, Matt Breida was technically the number 2 last year. He's now in San Francisco, by the way. Re-signed with the Niners this week.
I saw.
Like having this many good running backs in the room is a great problem to have, but now it comes down to where we're going to keep an extra running back or we're going to keep an extra quarterback, because we know for sure, like, I love Daniel. He's a good player, but he hasn't had more than one full healthy season, so we can't rely on his health to keep us afloat this season. We have to have a reliable backup.
I'm going to tell you what, Marcus. I don't think that's the question. I think they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks. I think
so,
Danny.
too.
I think Tommy DeVito, unless he screws it up, he will be the third quarterback on the 53. I think what you're jockeying is how many receivers, how many tight ends, how many defensive backs, how many offensive linemen, how many running backs. Those positions I think are in flux. I am now convinced that Tommy DeVito has to stay as the number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I had to
I-
guess at this exact moment, I would probably say the same thing. And in terms of the running backs, I mean, again, this is a good problem to have, but we still got a couple weeks left before the roster cut down. And as we've seen time and time again, a lot can change in a matter of days, let alone weeks. So
Can change on one play.
exactly. So like, while I fully, understand your question and stuff, all I would have to say is like, it was a great performance by those 3 running backs on Thursday. Let's see them do it again. Let's see how they perform
Absolutely.
against Houston and then against the Jets. Those will be, and in the joint practice against the Jets, those will be, give us, I would think, a better idea of who will probably make the roster when we get a little bit closer to cutdown day.
Right. Just the one thing that kind of makes me worry about keeping 3 quarterbacks is, like you were saying, like other positions are going to sacrifice. And I don't want to lose someone like DJ Davidson, who's done some flashes and everything. But like, I feel like that's a position that's kind of on the chopping block right now, since we have a lot of players in that position that are good.
Well, remains to be seen. Again, is there going to be a position that's gimpy? Like Flott's got the quad. We just talked about that a second ago. Okay? If for some reason that lingers, or another DB goes down, specifically a corner, they're going to have to keep another corner. That's just the way it goes. So, see, what people don't sometimes understand is that a player is not necessarily competing against himself or a teammate in the room or even a guy on the waiver wire. Sometimes he's competing for just a generic roster spot against another position. And that's often overlooked and forgotten about.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard Joe Shea in the last 2 cutdown days talk about how it's not just, you want to just put the best 53 players on the roster, but there are other factors that come into it. And he's spoken about how you sort of have to play like roster gymnastics and put the different pieces of the puzzle together, because you can't just look at like one position in a vacuum, because it really is a puzzle that you're putting together at every single position.
Right.
All right, Marcus, thank you.
Oh, yeah, no problem. One last thing, gentlemen. I just wanted to say, because I haven't called in a while, I just want to say one thing about a defensive player. I really like Tyler Nubin. I think he's going to be the future of this team, and I'll take your answers off the air. Hope you both have a great rest of your day. Go Giants.
All right, Marcus,
Thanks,
for the
Marcus.
call. Everybody here likes Tyler Nubin, too.
I mean, I loved him. Once we made the draft pick, I was already like watching some highlights and some interviews of him. I'm like, this guy's going to be a very popular guy here. And so far, since he got back onto the field after missing that first week, his play has backed up my thoughts from the offseason.
It's another really good problem because Pinnock has been solid and Belton has done well, to the point where Shane Bowen said the other day it's Belton's job to lose.
Yeah.
So we're looking right now at what we think are 3 very talented safeties on that part of the depth chart.
Speaking of Pinnock and Belton, both of them during one-on-ones today at the start of practice, both had interceptions. Made very nice plays on the ball.
Let's quickly go over 11 on 11s today. Offensively, it was not a great day. It was clearly a day for the defense. Hyatt did catch a touchdown pass down the right sideline on a go route from Daniel Jones. But for the most part, I had DeVito on a bootleg for a touchdown where he faked out the entire defense and ran it in. And to be frank with you, on 11 on 11s, those were really the best plays for me, Dan. Matt, I saw defensively, we had what I thought was a diving interception for Nubin, but now he was telling us he didn't hold the ball.
No, he said he did hold it.
He said he did hold it.
In the scrum in the field house before, he said, for sure, I caught that. And I was standing right there. He caught it.
But they didn't rule it that way.
No, I think the refs did.
One of the officials did not. And that's why they conferred, and I don't know what they eventually decided.
I was under the impression that they ruled it interception.
Well, that's good.
And
That's
I was
good.
standing right there. It certainly looked like it.
That was on the goal line drill. I was on the other
Yeah.
on the other pylon. You were on the far pylon. I was on this pylon.
Anyway, I watched that back. It looks like a catch to me.
We like it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like
Now, that was a cager was the intended receiver. And Newbin made a diving attempt at. Now, what he was just talking about in the field house was, he's like, in the NCAA, when you go down, you're down. He goes, now we're in the NFL. I got to remember, I can get up and I can take that ball the other way. So this guy's going to be really good. So that was a sweet play. All right, so we'll say that was a pick. I also saw 2 sacks for DJ Davidson. I saw let's see here. McFadden had a pass defensed, which was very sweet. And we also had Alex Johnson with a really sweet pass defensed as well. Was there anything else that caught your eye?
Well, I think we got to spend a little bit more time talking about that DJ to Hyatt touchdown, because the way you just described it did not do it justice. Because that was, first of all, the Giants were lined up, I want to say, around their own 20-yard line.
Oh, it was a bomb.
And this ball had at least 50 yards in the air. At least. Might have been more. 50 to 60 yards.
That's what a go route usually is.
No, I know. But Daniel Jones placed the ball, dropped it in perfectly, where Jalen Hyatt did not break his stride at all, caught it. I forgot who was the defender. It might have been Pinnock or Belton.
Belton was back there.
Was right there.
And so was McLeod.
Hyatt caught it, I would say, just inside the 20-yard line, but it was just basically Hyatt and, I guess, Belton. And in my opinion, again, I was standing pretty close to there, Hyatt would have easily, Belton did not have a good tackle on him, where Hyatt easily would have walked into the end zone for a touchdown. Would have probably been like an 80-yard touchdown pass. And it was just
a beautiful touchdown pass.
Beautiful, perfect pass by Daniel Jones. Great catch by Jalen Hyatt. It was contested. Belton was right there, but he outran him, as we've come to see Jalen Hyatt do since he got here. We needed to go into a little bit more detail about that, because that was okay. I hope we caught that on camera and can post it up on Giants social media, but I don't know if we did. So I just wanted to give that play a little more justice.
It was a routine professional go route, folks. But I appreciate you being overzealous. I expect that from Daniel Jones. I expect that from Jalen Hyatt. This is, to me, expected.
Yeah,
I
but
didn't see it as being
you
so
expect to
overly
see
spectacular.
50-plus air yard perfect pass every practice?
Not every
We
practice.
haven't seen it every practice.
Not every practice.
Okay. You need to get into it a little bit more. Hey, when guys make great plays, you got to give them their props.
I love it. It wasn't great. It was the first play I mentioned.
I know, but I thought you were going to go into it. It's clearly easily the play of the day.
Of course. I just don't want to drool over it, because it wasn't a practice against the Lions. No. It wasn't a practice against another team. This was Giants on Giants, and to be honest,
but most of these practices are Giants versus Giants.
Which is
doesn't
why
mean you can't get excited about good plays.
You can't drool over these practices. There's got to be a limit.
Almost every practice.
There's got to be a limit to the drool.
So we can only drool at 3 practices all training camp?
All right. I'm just trying to maintain composure here, folks. Some people get way carried away. I don't know what to tell you. It's all right, though. It's all right.
I'll also say, after that, or in the same period as that Jalen Hyatt touchdown.
What did you like?
I just like the first team offense stayed on the field after that, because that was, I think, the first play. So they clearly wanted to get more reps.
Correct.
And
what was the second play? Singletary was the first play. Hyatt was the second play.
Okay, second play. But during that period where the first team offense was out on the field, I had Daniel Jones down for only 1 incompletion. And
correct.
For at least 5 completions.
He was 5 out of 6 on
5
that
out of
possession.
6.
That's correct.
Some nice passes.
With a touchdown.
Which
was spectacular, by the way.
There we go.
Over the top.
That's what I was looking for.
Light up the lights in the scoreboard on Times Square. It was sensational.
There we go.
201-939.
What else? Oh, your guy.
513. Your guy. You know I like to bust on you.
Of course.
Okay, go ahead. What do you got?
Your guy, Ryder Anderson, had a nice batted ball at the line of scrimmage.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. Quarterback's face.
You know what? I must not have. Let me see here. For some reason, no. You know what? I did not mention that. I'm sorry, because I do. You're right. He is one of my guys.
And then towards the very end of practice, he had another pressure that probably would have been a sack.
Could have been.
Could have been. Not definite, but he had a good practice. I thought the tight ends of anyone that other than that one play, I thought Theo
Bellinger
Johnson had
and
a couple
Johnson.
plays, but Bellinger especially, I think this was one of his stronger practices of the summer.
I think if we went back and counted it up, this was one of those practices where they got a lot of targets.
Some of them on like tight end screens, and then others,
and they weren't necessarily big, deep targets downfield.
No.
But they got a lot of burn today, both Bellinger and Theo Johnson.
Yeah, for sure.
And nothing spectacular, but just workmanlike, and they got the ball and did something that they had to do with it. So, anyway, all right. 201-939-4513. Rich in Forest Hills, you're next on the program. Hello.
Hey, guys. How's it going today?
All good. How are you?
Good. Tight ends make sense because that's what I was calling about. Obviously, the roster cut downs and things and the number of people at each position has been a big topic. Paul, I think you and John last week did a thing on how many tight ends and running backs combined. One thing I noticed in the game, and I know these play calls are vanilla, was a lot of tackle eligible, not just in the red zone, but between the 20s. Do you think that's kind of alluding to maybe only keeping 3 tight ends? Is that a formation that they're working a bit more?
Here's what I'm going to warn you about. What you see in the preseason games is really pared down, and so I don't want you to take anything you see there and automatically assume that that's going to be a tendency in the regular season. That's just a friendly warning. Now, what we've seen at camp is a lot of stuff and a lot of player deployments that we cannot talk about. So how's that for an answer that will let you scratch your head for a little while?
It's going to let me scratch my head for another week and a half, I guess.
Okay. I'm
fine.
trying to be crystal clear with you as much as I can be. How about that?
Yeah, that's fair enough. And then, that's all I had. And then lastly, small sample size, but Drew Phillips looks the part. Coming down into the box, making the tackle, and I think they're loving him. That's all I had, guys. I'll take it off the air, but thanks so much.
Great.
Thanks, Rich.
Unfortunately, we mentioned Phillips, a little bit tweaked right now, but he's got a lot of really good reviews so far.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we saw it in Hard Knocks. I believe it was Joe Shane that said it. He's a dog. And we know that this is a term that the team is embracing this year, the dog, D-A-W-G. But everything that Drew Phillips has shown has been that, whether it's practice against the Giants, practice against the Lions, the preseason opener against the Lions. Like, he is not afraid to get into the middle of the play, no matter who is on the other side. He is not I think he might already be one of the tougher guys on this defense, and he's a rookie.
I think that's possible. You know what's funny? And I know this is going to sound really dumb, but it's kind of true. And you've been here, so you'll understand when I say this. You got guys like Nubin, guys like Belton, guys like Phillips. These guys are in the back 7, right? They're in the secondary. Forget this, the back 7. They're in the secondary. That's even further back. And what did they always talk about? First, it's being physical. They don't talk about necessarily, even Nubin. He understands he's a ball hawk. But we said his first priority was, I think about being physical. I don't think that's a coincidence. This Giants team has some guys who really want to get their noses dirty.
Yeah.
Right? You sense the same thing.
100%. I mean, again, I don't want to keep bringing up Hard Knocks, but when we saw the conversations of Joe Shane and the other members of the front office talking about these guys before the draft, in the lead up, that was like the main thing that they spoke about for almost every one of those guys. At least Nubin and Phillips for sure.
Yeah.
They discussed how physical those guys were. And honestly, I think it was the first or second play Nubin was on the field against the Lions where he just went and blew up that 300-pound offensive lineman on the Lions. And I believe it was Deontay Johnson was able to run right in, tackle the runner. I think it was a third down play, or it was, short yardage.
He put
they were
the
trying
guard
to run
right on his back.
He put the guard right on his back and cleared the path for Deontay Johnson to come
ridiculous.
in and make the tackle.
When you think about that, that's ridiculous. That should not
crazy.
happen.
And that was just one play. I mean, we've seen both Nubin and Phillips show that physicality and that toughness in practice almost every day.
And it sounds crazy, right? Because football's physical by its very definition and nature, right? But no, you don't always get defensive backs who prioritize that. They're more interested in, I want to be sticky in coverage. I want to anticipate the ball. I want to get an interception. I want to show that I have good enough hands that I can make those picks. these defensive backs are not like that. Even Tate Banks, when he got here last year, talked about how physical he wanted to be.
Yeah.
All right. Quickly, folks, let you know, Run or Walk with Giants Legends. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K Racing Kids Run presented by Quest on Saturday, September 7th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation. All participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt after the race. Stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. And remember, free and open to the public, the Giants Fan Fest will take place on Friday, September 6th, presented by Wendy's. We'll celebrate 100 seasons of New York Giants football with a ceremony honoring the top 100 Giants, autographs and panel discussions by Giants legends, historic displays, photos with the Lombardi trophies, and an incredible drone light and fireworks show to end the night. Get your tickets now by visiting giants.com/fanfest. Giants Huddle Podcast has Giants and NFL interviews all over the place. Plenty of them there. The long form. You get a lot of detail, a lot of great insight. You can find them on your favorite podcast platforms or go to giants.com/podcasts. Giants season ticket memberships for 2024 are available. Stay connected to the team all year round. To learn more about exclusive member benefits, visit giants.com/tickets. Limited inventory, of course, is available. And Giants TV is the free app where you can get all kinds of streaming video, game highlights, etc. It's on Apple TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and the Giants mobile app. That does it for today's promos. We go back to the phones, and line one has Len from Columbia. You're next on Big Blue Kickoff Live. Hello.
Boy, just like the big time folks. You do the promos and then you lead into Len from Columbia. That's great.
Well, we need to promote you all the time. Anytime you're on this program, Len, we know it's going to be good, so bring it now.
Perfect timing. Hey, good to talk to you guys. All right, Tuesday coming around and the release of another 10 all-time great Giants. I don't know why I'm so caught up in this, guys, but I just really love this. It's
good.
I think it's been the highlight of this celebration of the 100th season. And I'm just following it closely, and can't wait for late morning tomorrow in the next 10. We're really starting to get into royalty territory now with 31 through 40. Holy cow! On the game on Thursday, a couple of comments on the game on Thursday night. I think you guys are right, and you've been talking about this now for a couple of shows. The physicality just really stood out. Holy cow! I think it showed the difference between the two teams. I know we're playing second and third stringers, and who knows about conditioning, but geez, we had the better players on the field the other night.
Len, I'm going to give you one thing. Go back if you haven't done it. I don't do it during the preseason. I don't log missed tackles during the preseason. But offhand, now I was down on the field. I was on the sideline the whole night in the rain. But I will tell you this. Did you see more than two or three?
I don't think so.
No, not really. And
that's a good sign.
That's a really good. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's a really good sign. And it doesn't matter if they're backups or not.
Yeah.
When you got guys bringing other people down, it says a lot about the mentality and also the fundamentals that your defense is executing.
Yes. And that takes a little more than technique. I mean, that takes purpose and focus. I mean, you at that level in that game, as tough as these players are, you got to really want to make that tackle, Paul. And so I'm glad you brought that up, because that was true. It showed me some deep focus. But I mean, across the line, the back seven on defense. I mean, those second and third stringers, wow. I mean, they all kind of stood out. They were in the backfield. They were chasing down ball carriers, knocking passes down. Really pretty impressive. And along the offensive line, too. Geez, I thought we dominated on the offensive line. It took me like 6, 7, maybe first 8 plays, and I'm looking at the screen, and I thought to myself, who the heck's playing right tackle? The guy just stood out. I mean, Joshua Miles. Have I got the first name right, Paul?
Yes. He actually has done some good things at camp, and of the deep offensive linemen on the chart, he's kind of moved himself up a little bit.
Yeah. Geez, he looked. You watch him, and I mean, the technique. I don't know a lot about offensive line plays here, but just a couple of things that stood out to me. His technique. He seemed to be in position. He stayed between the guy he was blocking and the quarterback, and just good balance in his feet. And I kept thinking, oh, geez, I hope Evan Neal has that balance when he gets back on the field. But he kind of stood out. And the other guy that stood out for me on the line, the guy we signed in the off season who played with Tampa, Stinney.
Mm-hmm.
He just looks like he knows what he's doing, guys. I mean, he just looks like a professional offensive guard. He didn't play. What did he play? Maybe 10 plays, but he looked like the best offensive lineman on the field from who played. And the second and third string linebackers, again. Boogie looks like maybe he's going to make this team. He's just. It was fun to. It was kind of fun to watch, and it just goes to prove this is just a better roster of people. We'll see what happens as we go through the rest of the preseason. Back to the tackling, and Paul, I know you like Darnay Holmes, and I do too. And the reason why I liked Holmes and have liked him from day one, Paul. I know they just discovered he can play special teams. It's amazing it took him 4 years to figure that out. But he gets people on the ground. I like that. I like Holmes. He's a tough little dude.
Comes from a tough part of Los Angeles, and he'll tell you anytime you ask him.
I know the background.
A very rugged area in Los Angeles, and he takes that with him every day.
Yes, he does. He does. And if he gets his hands on you, you're going down.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I know he didn't. It looks like that Trey Herndon may be a step ahead of him at this point, but I hope Darnay comes through. I've always liked him from day one. I liked the guy.
Yep.
So hey, listen, good. Good effort the other night. It was fun to watch, and I was a little surprised. Now, on the disappointment side, I don't know about the quarterbacks. I got fingers crossed. Come on, Daniel. One, stay healthy. I don't know. I thought the way the team was playing, the way the running backs were performing, I thought maybe we should have scored more points, Paul. I was a little disappointed in Locke. But again, first preseason game. I mean, we'll see what happens. And Tommy is Tommy. I mean, we're going to keep three quarterbacks. I mean, there's no question we can't take the chance. I don't know about the running back numbers. If you keep four, you're only going to dress three. What are you keeping four for? Go get somebody else at another position. I wouldn't be surprised. I liked the way he played the other night. Kind of opened my eyes a little bit. Although we saw a little bit of the end of last season in Gray. Maybe he's odd man out. What do you think?
I would be very surprised.
Well, you said Tracy was ahead of him.
I think Tracy is ahead of him. But to say that Gray's if you say Gray's the odd man out, I'm assuming you think he's going to get cut when you say that.
Yeah.
I don't think he gets cut.
Okay.
I think he has the edge over Dante Turbo Miller at this point because he has a year of experience here in the system, and he, played his tail off in the opener.
Okay.
But I think that the running back position these next two preseason games is going to be one of the most intriguing position battles we're going to see.
And Len, to be frank, because Turbo Miller played at Columbia University and then didn't get many snaps at South Carolina, you probably have a better chance on sneaking him onto the practice squad than you do in Eric Gray. Everybody knows who Eric Gray is. He was not like an undrafted rookie free agent.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
he was a mid-round draft choice, and a mid-round draft choice who gets cut in his second season is going to attract attention.
Yeah. Well, are you guys then leaning toward the idea that we'll keep 3?
I haven't decided yet, to be honest.
If I had to guess right now, given some of the injuries at other positions, I would lean more towards 3 running backs. But again, depending on how these guys play and if other positions get healthier, these running backs, the 4 of them, could force Joe Shane's hand to keep 4 of them.
Yeah.
You know, here's the one thing we do know, okay? Tracy and Turbo Miller. Now, we'll rule Gray out of this because it didn't work so well on the return game last year, so we'll rule him out of this. But Tracy and Turbo Miller can both return kicks.
They both have extensive experience returning kicks.
So you know, Len, it's going to work itself out one way or the other. I think all 4 running backs should be in the building in September.
Okay.
I'm really not ready to use a Sharpie permanent marker and say which 3. I know during the course of camp, Miller and Tracy seem to perform better day to day during training camp than Gray, and then the last week or so, Gray has picked it up, and he's gone right into that fray, and he's kind of evened the whole thing out.
Yeah.
Just hope that all 4 are in the building. Okay, that's the best. That's the best I could say.
Going back to Gray for a second, you brought something up. Both brought something up that I think was important, is the special teams aspect. I mean, he's just, the other 3 guys, or the 2, Tracy. I mean, you see them doing some other things, and possibly fitting in on special teams. I don't see Gray fitting in on special teams in any shape, manner, or form. Well, we'll see what happens there. I think the difference in the backup linebacker situation is going to be how well these guys play the pass. God, they got a nose for the ball. I mean, even that 6th-round pick, the kid from UCLA, wow.
Musa.
He's got, I tell you, there's some intangibles with that guy. Paul, Gary Reasons.
No, not even close.
In what way?
You mean
talent-wise?
Talent-wise, and also build. They're not the same.
Oh, yeah.
Reasons was a much bigger, much more sturdy player.
Yeah.
And much more physical at the point of attack too.
Let me say.
I mean, ask Bobby Humphrey of the Broncos about Gary Reasons.
Yeah, let me say one thing about Reasons now that we brought him up, because I always thought when Gary Reasons was on the field, Paul, good things happened for the Giants.
Yeah, well, he was a
football
player. Reasons did not have great athleticism. He was just a really good football player.
I just, the Lawrence Taylor shoulder game, Thanksgiving weekend, 1988. I was by the Giants tunnel as they were coming out, and the first guy that presented himself, because he's from that area of the world, as you know, he's from down there in Louisiana, was Gary Reasons.
Yeah.
And I yelled to Gary, as I often tried to do with some of the players. He was by himself. He completely ignored me. But
smart man.
But listen.
No, Len, go ahead.
But Paul, no. Let me finish the story. But so totally focused. That guy's eyes were on that field, and I thought to myself, I wouldn't want to play against this guy tonight.
Len, he made up for his lack of athleticism.
There was something going on.
Yeah, he had smarts and instincts and anticipation. And that's what made him the player that he was. Len, I got to go. We got a lot of calls still on the line.
Good. Hey, thanks.
Be good.
Thanks,
Thank you. 201-939-4513. Alex in Syracuse, you're next on the show. Hello.
Hey, guys. How are we doing today?
Hi.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, if I can't follow promos, following Len's got to be the next best spot on the show, I think.
Okay. There you go.
I got two things for you today. It's actually kind of to tag on to the running back discussion you were just having with Len. I, like everybody, seems to feel like we got a pretty good room so far after one game, like you said, Matt. We got to see where it pans out. But what I found interesting today is the addition of Lorenzo Lingard, which, again, I know, we're in the time of the season, people come and go, but I thought it was interesting that to move a spot to bring in another running back, given the situation, seeming like we almost already have, more than we can handle. I just wonder, do you think that's a special teams thing? There's not a lot of tape on him right now that I can see, even out on the internet highlights and stuff. you have any sense of what that bringing in of Lingard might be about?
All right, so just to get people caught up, they got rid of Sailors, the spring league running back, yesterday. Okay, one of the reasons he was supposedly brought here was because of his experience on the new kickoff return rule, because he did some of that in the spring league. Obviously, he was way behind the other backs, and so he is gone. And now they bring in Lorenzo Lingard out of Miami, who played for the Hurricanes.
He started there.
Yes.
He went to 3 different schools.
Correct.
Miami, Florida, and then Akron.
Yes. Known, though, primarily, I think he was known for Miami first, right?
He had 2 years at Miami, then 3 at Florida, 1 at Akron.
Okay, so mostly Florida. I only heard about him this morning. I knew nothing of him prior. Was with the Jaguars real quick, cup of coffee, and then released. So I'll be frank with you. He just got here. He was wearing 28 this morning, ran a few plays. I don't know what to think of him.
Yeah, I don't know. Same with you. I didn't really know who this was prior to this morning. You got to keep one thing in mind, though, that this time of year isn't just about finding guys for the 53-man roster. They could be looking at possible guys, as backup plans for the practice squad, perhaps. We're talking about the 4 running backs, 3 of which we seem to, potentially be battling for 2 spots. Well, if one of them ends up getting cut and picked up by another team, the Giants are going to want to have someone on the practice squad at the running back position. That is a position you need one guy at least on the practice squad. Maybe this is, giving him a look for that spot.
That's a
on
great
the practice
point.
Squad.
That is a really good point, Matt, because Ja'Shawn Corbin was waived injured.
He was waived injured, and obviously just that Sailors is gone. So right now, there wouldn't be a guy that's familiar with the system ready to take that spot on the practice squad.
And believe me, you need running backs on the practice squad because they help you run plays on the scout team during the season.
For sure. And that's just my guess. I mean, obviously he's got a chance to make the team. He's got a couple of weeks to prove himself, but given the other 3 guys have been here now and have already been playing well, he's definitely a little bit behind the 8 ball. But you never know.
Few kickoff returns, by the way, at college. I was just looking here. 7 kickoff returns during his career over the course of his time at the NCAA level. So very limited return experience. I would suggest he's probably a running back, not a return guy.
All right. That makes sense. That's kind of what I was able to look up to, and I was just curious. But that makes a lot of sense, Matt.
Yeah,
my other guy that
we haven't talked to anybody about him, so we don't have any really thing to add.
Fair enough. No, fair enough. The other guy I wanted to ask about, who has been there for a little while, the Syracuse guy that I've kind of caught wind of a while back when he was in high school, because kind of an athletic freak. He has really high RAS score, which the Giants seem to be putting sort of a premium on this year. It seemed like going throughout a lot of the process. And so Casey Rogers, the defensive tackle, and I know that there's a lot of guys right now fighting for that spot, but I've been kind of rooting for that guy as a hometown guy since he got there. I mean, I thought, I saw him, kind of towards the end of the game, in the preseason game. And, I know we're playing against third stringers at this point, but I felt like you saw a little bit of that athleticism, and you actually saw him kind of in the mix on a couple plays there towards the end. And I just was wondering, since obviously I'm not there for camp, if you guys can shed any light on if you've seen anything from him or any sort of sparks or any opportunity that you think maybe he squeaks his way onto a practice squad or maybe makes the roster. Is there any chance you think for my guy Casey Rogers?
I'll tell you this. He's flashed throughout camp on occasion and did make a couple plays the other night where he was noticeable from the sideline. But having said that, the Giants coaching staff has pretty much talked about how deep this defensive line room is. So he has a heck of a mountain to climb if he's going to make the 53. I think practice squad is much more realistic.
Yeah, I was going to say, he definitely has played well since the start of training camp. Like, he is one of those guys that
he's done things.
Is at the bottom of this the unofficial depth chart right now at his position, but has really flashed and has stood out compared to some of the other guys that he seems to be competing with. Now, as Paul mentioned, there is a lot of good competition at defensive tackle for the 53-man roster. As of right now, he definitely has a very uphill battle to make the 53-man roster. But he does seem like, I would think, a prime candidate that the Giants would potentially want to try to get onto the practice squad, as you mentioned. I think he's definitely shown enough to be in consideration for one of those spots, yeah.
And really, the problem there is that if you really believe the room is as deep as this coaching staff thinks, chances are that's where some of the claims are going to other teams. There's nothing that says you're going to be able to hold on to him. You may want very badly to keep him in the room, but, there's such a thing as showing a little too much. And then all of a sudden you get scapped up.
That is true.
Awesome. I appreciate it, guys. That's all I had. Great work as always, and talk to you guys soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Alex.
the phone call. Call us again. 201-939-4513 is our phone number here on Big Blue Kickoff Live. So the practices will continue for the next couple of days. They'll have another padded one tomorrow.
Yep.
And then again on Wednesday, they will have shells.
No, I thought Thursday. I thought Wednesday
What's
was
today?
Today's Monday. I thought Wednesday was an off day.
Are we off Wednesday? I don't know.
Every day meshes together during training
you know
camp.
why? Because I get in the car in the morning and I just start it, and automatically it just drives here. I don't even worry about going to the store for groceries. I just immediately, the car just drives itself to the Giants complex. What are we doing?
Wednesday, no availability.
We're off Wednesday.
Off Wednesday.
Okay, and then Thursday.
So it's today, Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay. And then obviously on Friday is the walkthrough and the jet to Houston for the preseason game on Saturday. Now, Brian Daboll did tell us earlier in the week, yesterday as a matter of fact, that he wanted to get 3 really good practice sessions in this week, even though they're not all padded.
Yep.
Okay? He did say he wanted to do that. As he mentioned in our production meeting, and I'm not talking out of turn because, again, we can't really tell you stuff that we're told in that meeting, but he's like, hey, regular season's going to be here before you know it. The train is starting to get ready to pull out of the station. Got to get guys ready, which is one of the reasons why he has insisted that the starters will get a lot of snaps this week. You got to get them ready. You can't keep bubble wrap on them forever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you look at the calendar, 3 weeks from today, we will be here. It is the Monday leading into week 1. They will be fully game prepping for the Vikings 3 weeks from today. I don't know where the last couple of weeks, they've kind of flown by, and at the same time,
They really have.
flown by at the same time, felt like we've crawled through them. Just the dog days of training camp. But yeah, week 1 is going to be here before we know it. And you want to get your guy, you want to be safe with your guys. I mean, we spoke about this before training camp started.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be safe with your guys, especially your starters. But at the same time, you can't expect guys to get no game reps all preseason, step in, to the huddle week 1 against the Vikings and be playing at 100%. Like, it's, I would think, just a little unreasonable to expect that. I mean, there's a reason why the whole training camp is basically a ramp up to week 1. It's to get guys ready for every aspect of it, the mental aspect of the game, especially the physical aspect of the game. So yeah, I mean, even just looking at the practice schedule of training camp, this was always the week that we thought the starters would play, because last week 2 joint practices against the Lions, which provide you an ample opportunity to get great reps and real reps. And then next week there's the joint practice against the Jets. And it's also the last preseason game closest to the start of the regular season. Someone gets banged up in that game, obviously less time to get back on the field for week 1. So this weekend was always the game I feel like a lot of us had circled as the best possibility of seeing our starters. And, barring something crazy happening in practice these next few days, it seems like we're heading that way.
Now, the biggest disappointment, and I think Carmen Brasillo, the offensive line coach, did mention this yesterday, is that at this point, they still haven't been able to get their assumed starting 5 offensive linemen on the field at the same time. That's a regret. It's not something you have control over. JMS had the sore shoulder. And by the way, he did talk to the media today. Did not really have anything to say about that. So ask Daves. And I get that. That's fine. He's deflecting all of that. But the fact he was in pads all last week on the sideline. It wasn't like he was inside getting treatment. He was in pads watching everything. And then today they actually got him out to do some individuals. Okay, so he's clearly being ramped up. I don't think, and Coach would not confirm 100%, but it's unlikely that he'll play against Houston. Him and Neal. It's highly unlikely.
I would say unless, both of those guys or either one of them all of a sudden are doing every team rep in practice tomorrow, which I don't think that's going to happen.
I doubt it too.
Then I don't see how they would be ready to go for Saturday.
Here's the problem now. You got one joint practice with the Jets the following week and one game against the Jets at the end of that week. That may be the only time that you're going to be able to get these assumed starting five on the field together. That's a little later than they wanted it to be.
For sure.
Now, you got to make the best of it. It's reality. I tell people all the time, sometimes you have to chew on nails. That's just the way it is. Chew on those nails and digest. You don't have a choice. That's just the way it's fallen again this year. Will the Giants be able to come through that okay? Well, look, we've talked about how Greg Van Roten can possibly factor into this equation several times. And it was brought up to Coach Priscillo yesterday that because he and Illuminor have played at the right guard and right tackle spot for a full season with the Raiders, if they decide to go with that combination, it will be easier for them to get on the field in week one.
Yeah, I mean, that, for sure. And that I feel like Dable has sort of said that as well when asked about why are you giving Greg Van Roten all these snaps at center. He said, like, look, this guy's been around the league for over a decade
He
now.
knows how to play guard.
He knows how to play guard. He has not played much center in his career, so Dable has been preaching this since the day he got here. We know that Brian Dable loves versatility. He loves guys being able to play more than one position. Obviously, depending on what position we're talking about. But for offensive linemen, he likes guys that can play multiple spots. I mean, we've seen it the last couple of years with Joshua Azudu, with him going between tackle and guard. And I believe it was Carmen Bracillo yesterday, when asked about Azudu specifically, he literally said, we want to get this guy as many reps at tackle as we can. In case we need him to step in there, he can still play guard. We know he can play guard, but we want to get him prepared to play multitude of positions. Mm-hmm. And that's the same thing with Greg Van Roten, except that's a guy that's been doing it for a decade now. Just had his best year of his career last year at guard, playing under Carmen Bracillo with Illuminor next to him. Like, that is not something that they're going to need. I don't think would need, weeks and weeks of practice to get themselves game ready to play those positions. Talk about Van Roten and Illuminor especially. I feel like they, give them a couple of days of practice and they'll be ready to go.
By the way, did you see the one-on-ones today? The O-line, D-line?
That was the other thing I wanted to.
Brian Burns gave Illuminor one heck of a rough time today.
That is actually what I wanted. If we had time, I was hoping that we
got a minute left. I kind of wanted to touch that.
There were two main takeaways I got from watching the defensive line one-on-ones. Brian Burns, very good at football.
I like the way you said that.
Andrew Thomas, also very good at football.
Yes.
Those two, if they can stay healthy, maybe I'm, a little too close to it, but I don't see how both of those guys don't have great seasons if they are able to stay healthy. From what they've shown this summer, I know it's a lot of it, pretty much all of it for those two guys has just been practice, but we got a glimpse of them getting to face the Detroit Lions, who have what many people consider to be the best offensive line,
and that's during the week
in the
way.
league.
Make sure they understand. They
joint practices, the two joint practices.
Right.
The Lions, by many people, consider them to have the best offensive line in the league. If not
really
number
good.
one,
they're good.
Top three,
real good.
And Brian Burns was getting around Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker, not every rep, but a lot of snaps, like it was nothing. And Andrew Thomas was doing the same thing, but blocking Aiden Hutchinson. I don't know who their other starting edge
Tyler
rusher.
Decker.
No, their edge rusher, the starting opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Whoever it was. Andrew Thomas looked like essentially like a brick wall. Like nothing was getting by him. And just today at practice, basically for both of those guys, no matter who they were facing, that's what we saw almost every snap. Brian Burns was putting some moves on Jermaine Illuminor, who's had a very great, strong, start to the training camp himself. But he was putting some moves on Illuminor and sort of just making him look silly. which is not easy to do because Jermaine Illuminor is a big, tough guy who is very good at right tackle. And Brian Burns was just putting moves on him, and I was standing there. I'm like, how the heck did he just do that?
Yeah. Burns has tremendous pliability and length. And those two things together really make him a major problem for any tackle trying to block him off the edge. Yeah. It's a nightmare. And I don't think he got enough credit because he was buried in Carolina. Mm-hmm. And outside of Derek Brown, who else in that front seven gave anybody any trouble at all?
I think he had 1 year with Hassan Reddick.
I mean, yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Years ago, though.
And right. And so, to what you said a minute ago about, kind of quality of those two guys, Andrew Thomas has been second team All-NFL, and Brian Burns has gone to the Pro Bowl. So these guys have already had some accolades. I'm going to go with you on this, and I'm going to say both of those guys will have career years.
If they stay healthy, I can easily see that happening.
And I say both of them are going to be awarded at the end of the season.
I think so,
I would be very surprised because it's right there in front of us. We could see it.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, I don't want to keep harping on those joint practices with the Lions.
I know.
But Penei Sewell was a first-team All-Pro tackle last year, and Brian Burns was getting by him with relative ease.
Yeah. So guess what, folks? You want to double Brian Burns? Tibbs will eat you for lunch.
Or Dexter. Or both.
Enjoy. That'll do it for this edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Giants. We are here every weekday from 1 p.m. Eastern Time for 1 hour to talk Giants football. Jot down the number 201-939-4513. From Outside Tech, I'm Paul Dottino. We'll see you next time